Donald Trump is now considering what he says are indictments in reverse. If the Democrats are going to be prosecuting him and his family and his lawyers and everybody else in between, maybe when he seizes the mantle of power back, he can turn the tables on them. And this is the pendulum swinging back and forth. And we've been talking about this for quite some time. And now, with the polls looking the way they are, it looks like it actually might be a real possibility. And the Democrats are getting a little bit nervous, quivering in their seats, because the swing states are looking pretty good for Trump. And Joe Biden doesn't look like he's going anywhere. So Trump made some comments about this, and we'll go through them. We'll see what he says about the current situation of being prosecuted 4 times in criminal courts and civilly in other courts. And we'll see what his reaction is to a bunch of this stuff. But we've also got Representative Elise Stefanik, who is submitting a judicial complaint about Judge Engoron, which is where the current really climax of the Trump prosecutions are occurring, which is in New York. Of course, this is a civil case, but it is considering disgorging Trump of nearly $250 million. And so there's a lot of attack happening through that vector as well. And so this is the clip that's catching everybody by storm. A lot of people in the media, how dare Trump even consider using the justice system as a cudgel against us? I mean, we've only been doing it since the day he came down the escalators, but now he is going to think about using our own weapons against us? Here is CNN. They've got this clip out, and I want to share this one. You'll see it at the very end of this clip. So this is Trump.
They've weaponized the Justice Department. They've weaponized the FBI, and they've come at me with the worst indictments. If they want to follow through on this, yeah, it could certainly happen in reverse. What they've done is they've released the genie out of the box. That would be, they would be out of business.
Yeah.
They'd be out. They'd be out of the election. In my case, they were such pathetic indictments.
Yeah, and they're not happy about this. And we've seen Scarborough, we've seen Maddow, we've seen all the ladies on The View. It's gonna happen. Schiff, and everybody's shifting their pants over there. And so this is, kind of a hysterical thing, because this is what we've been saying for a long time. It's like, all right, you want to go down this road? All right, it's not going to last forever. This is how these things go. And you can just look historically, when you start prosecuting your political opponents, it's a bad, bad thing, which is why we haven't done it in 234 years until the Democrats got in charge. And Trump is going to beat us. And so they had to really make sure that they took him off the field, lest he interrupt their plans. So that is part of the clip. Now, Trump is in this little position right now where the gag order against him is stayed. And he's been publishing a lot. He actually had another couple comments about Judge Chutkan and the deranged thugs over at Jack Smith's office. But Trump is also commenting about the New York case, which is really the current, I would say, most intense legal attack vector that's happening right now, because we're in the middle of a trial. Trump is starting his defense case in chief in just a few days, and we'll be seeing what he has to present. But he's posting this on his Truth platform. He says, Judge Engoron, the judge who is going to be getting a judicial complaint from Representative Elise Stefanik that we're going to read in just a minute, said that Judge Engoron should end the ridiculous political witch against me. I have totally won this case, which should never have been brought. The only fraud was committed by AG Letitia Tish James in convincing the judge that Mar-a-Lago was worth only $18 million in order to make my numbers look bad. When it's worth 50 to 100 times that amount, she campaigned on getting Trump, he says. She should be prosecuted. You're kidding. So Trump's going to seize power, and, hopefully the Republicans have this red wave, and all of them get prosecuted for malicious prosecution and for harassment and election interference and obstruction and all the same things. They just use their levers of power illegally, unconstitutionally, to try to take out their political opponent. So sounds pretty good. Now, Trump, right, I think he is recognizing, and the people are recognizing, that these are illegitimate indictments in reverse. And so we're going to see a complaint by Representative Elise Stefanik over to Judge Engoron, who's in New York, who is bona fide Democrat, who's elected, who is allowing another Democrat who's also elected, Letitia James, to do all of this to Donald Trump in the name of justice. This is taking place in New York. And what we're going to find is that Eric Trump says this is not just about Trump, okay? You're wrecking businesses. You're wrecking people's livelihoods. You've got people who are working for the Trump organization, and you're going after them. You're going to be attacking them, and that's going to cause problems to them and their families.
Let's not forget about the 1,000 employees. These are maids. These are housekeepers. These are engineers. These are drivers. These are bellmen. I mean, people who literally rely on our family and our properties to put food on their tables every single night. There's thousands of people who are collateral damage to Letitia James's games, and she doesn't give a damn. I mean, she doesn't even consider these people. I mean, isn't she responsible to take care of New Yorkers or represent the best interests of New Yorkers? These people have incredible jobs because of us, because of the Trump organization, because of our family, and she wants to put those people in peril? Sean, these people are cruel. They are cruel, cruel people, and they will do anything for their own political power, and my father will keep fighting it. I'll keep fighting it. In the end, we will win, because whatever's happening, it's unthinkable and it makes no sense.
And the question is, why would other businesses stick around in New York? I mean, unless you're you're absolutely traditional liberal orthodoxy, then you're kind of at risk there, right? You're subject to somebody being raided or something by Tishy or somebody coming after you. Now, we've also got Mayor Adams just got raided too, and they just took his cell phone. So the FBI is going after him as well. You can't trust the FBI. But in New York, what we have is Representative Stefanik now submitting a judicial complaint to Judge Engoron. And I want to go through this, and I want to commend Representative Stefanik for actually doing something about this. You know, we kind of sit here, and I know many suggestions have come in, and they say, well, can we file a complaint? And I said, yeah, but what are they going to do? And they're just going to, laugh you out of there, because most of us are not from New York, first of all, and they are civilian complaints. But if you have a representative who's filing a complaint from Congress, maybe the judicial, the bar, the committee that governs the judges, maybe they kind of do something about it. They give it a little bit of a closer look. Why is this taking so long for other Republicans to rally the troops around and against these weaponized legal attacks? Elise, Representative Stefanik, put this out on the X platform, says, I just filed an official judicial complaint against Judge Arthur Areola Engoron for his inappropriate bias and judicial intemperance in New York's disgraceful lawsuit against President Donald Trump and the Trump Organization. She says Americans are sick and tired of the blatant corruption by radical leftist judges in New York, and all New Yorkers must speak out against the dangerous weaponized lawfare against President Trump. Read my full complaint below. We, of course, will do that. Now, she is from New York, representative from the District 21, and so she's got a little bit more standing, right? Because she's there. Say, hey, I'm a citizen of New York. I happen to also be a congressperson, and so maybe you should pay attention. And so this is what she sent over. As you can see, this is sent from her personal address, okay? This looks like it's not on official government letterhead, right? This is not from Congress. Normally you'd see like Congress, House of Representatives, and, here in this state and all this stuff. Looks like it's just her as a citizen saying, hey, from my P.O. box here in Glens Falls, New York, November 10th, she writes, to the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct, and that's a nice address if you happen to be in New York and you want to, maybe write them a letter similar to this one, for example. Nice little template we have here as well. Says here, judicial complaint against Judge Arthur Areola Engoron, Supreme Court, New York County, case name New York versus Trump, brought by Tishy Latish James. Stefanik says, I write today to express my serious concerns about the inappropriate bias and judicial intemperance shown by Judge Engoron in his New York lawsuit against President Trump and the Trump Organization. She says this judge's bizarre behavior has no place in our judicial system, where Judge Engoron is not honoring the defendant Trump and his rights to due process and a fair trial. These serious concerns are exacerbated by the fact that the defendant Trump is the leading candidate for president of the United States, and it appears the judicial system is being politicized to affect the outcome of the campaign. Representative Stefanik says, simply put, Judge Engoron has displayed a clear judicial bias against Trump throughout the case, breaking several rules in the New York Code of Judicial Conduct, saying last year, Judge Engoron told President Trump and the attorney for Trump that President Trump is, quote, just a bad guy. That's last year, before the trial even started. Judge is on record. They say who Democrat Attorney General Tishy, quote, should go after as the chief law enforcement officer of the state. And this is a footnote down to footnote 1. This is from Mary Poppenfaus. She says in an article from Huffington Post dated February 17, 2022, that he's just a bad guy. Quote, the judge slams the claim that Trump has been unfairly singled out, right? So the judge is supporting Tishy Latish. Now, at the start of the trial, Judge Engoron infamously smiled and posed for the cameras, took his glasses off. Here I am. I'm making history. Maybe I'll put it in my nipple newsletter. Now, after the defendant won an appellate ruling against Judge Engoron on the appropriate statute of limitations in this case, because many of these cases come from 2011 and so on, the judge simply ignored the ruling. And we've got two footnotes down here. This one from New York courts. This one says that applying the proper statute of limitations and the appropriate tolling, claims are time barred if they accrued, that is, if the transactions were completed before February 6, 2016. Okay, so that's the deadline. In other words, the Court of Appeals has said that everything before that is not applicable because the claim should have been brought back then. They say here, for defendants bound by the tolling agreement, claims are untimely if they accrued before July 14th. And that comes from the appellate division from the First Judicial Department, decided back in June of this year. So Ms. Stefanik, representative, writes, the judge has just literally simply ignored the ruling and just saying, well, I'll assess my damages based on all of that, right? So the judge will assess damages for the stuff that is inside the hula hoop. So there's a hula hoop and inside is fair game. That's all good. Now, outside of the statute of limitations, the these are no-nos. But the judge is going to say, well, I'm going to consider and only rule upon damages and restitution and all, the harm only on these cases. Like I'm only, I'm just going to only impact this category. But I can consider these things, even though they're not really applicable, maybe as charges or claims, but I can consider them for a pattern of misconduct that I can use for this analysis, right? So Trump keeps objecting and he says, no, I know, I'm not going to penalize you for this. I'm just going to consider this as part of a greater pattern for that. And man, if you look at that way, it almost looks like his bonus torso photo. Gross. So they continue on. So they said Engoron ignored the ruling, and now Judge Engoron then entered summary judgment against Trump before the trial even began, without any witnesses, without any other evidence, without any cross-examination. And this is despite the fact that there's disputed material and evidence. And there's no claim of Trump's supposed fraud, no victim of Trump's supposed fraud. Nobody's even been articulated as somebody who's been wronged here. Now, indeed, as the trial evidence is made clear, says Ms. Stefanik, Trump paid back the sophisticated Wall Street banks on time, in full, with interest as agreed. And no insurance company paid a penny. And these banks and insurance companies that were supposedly defrauded, so-called, by Tish, they continued to do business with Trump. But Judge Engoron decreed before the trial even started that Trump somehow committed fraud. We don't really know how. And now the judge is holding a trial with no jury to determine how much of Tish James, yeah, nice job, Elise, woo, nailed it. That's her Twitter account. And she's always sitting on her Tish, so it fits. To determine how much of Tish James's requested $250 million in damages with no victims that he's going to extract from Trump. How does this not violate Donald Trump's 7th Amendment right to a jury trial? You can just take away $250 million like that because some judge decided it in summary judgment? And Judge Engoron, writes Ms. Stefanik, has made it crystal clear that he doesn't care what the defendant or his attorneys have to say. Indeed, Judge Engoron also illegally gagged them, saying you can't talk about his Greenfield law clerk who's passing him love notes and maybe massaging his neck. Nobody knows what she's doing. Nobody can say what is happening there, so nobody really knows. As far as I can tell, there's no evidence that she's not massaging his neck in the middle of the court because his attorneys, all the attorneys are gagged from saying anything about it, so we just don't know. Now, Judge Engoron told the defendant, says, we are not here to listen to what you have to say. What? That's weird. Trump was literally on the stand testifying. He told the defendant's counsel, he says, quote, I'm not here to what he has to say. Now sit down. And everybody looked at each other in this court. You're like, did he just say what I think he said? I'm not here to hear what he has to say. Now sit down. And then Judge Engoron even threatened Trump's lawyers if he filed a routine motion for a directed verdict. Chris Keese, Trump's defense attorney, said, Your Honor, I have to make an objection. Your law clerk, your Greenfield, your GF is passing you love notes all day, and I got to make an objection to this. I'm a lawyer. I took an ethical obligation to my client. I have to represent him. So I have to make an objection here and file a motion. And when they did that, the judge looked at Chris and he looked him dead in the eye and he said, you better not, Chris. Better not file a motion? What are you, like scolding him like he's your father or something? Or he's your son or some? What is this? So obviously you have to file a motion. Hello. So Judge Engoron, writes Ms. Stefanik, and his staff are partisan Democrat donors. No doubt about that. As recently as 2018, Judge Engoron donated to Manhattan Democrats, footnote 5. And you see, the Daily Wire busted this. Brent Scher reported New York judge caught smiling during Trump trial is a lifelong Democrat donor, 2023 October. Even though, according to the Judicial Code of Conduct that was accessed November 9th, Section 100.5 says that judges, quote, shall refrain from making a contribution to a political organization. But this is New York. They don't care. He's voting for Democrats, okay? He's donating to Democrats, not Republicans. So, whatever. We also see that Ms. Stefanik says, the Code of Judicial Conduct from New York, it also stipulates that, quote, a judge shall prohibit members of the judge's staff from contributing more than $500 in the aggregate during any calendar year to all political campaigns for office. So the judge's Greenfield should not be doing that. But look at this. Allison Greenfield, we call the judge's GF because her name's Greenfield, so it's Judge Areola's GF, has served as Judge Engoron's principal law clerk since 2019. However, in both 2022 and 2023, Greenfield donated in excess excess of $500 to political campaigns. Which is a lot of money. You know, that's like a lot of money. That's somebody who's very politically active. In 2022 alone, Greenfield donated $3,335 in political donations to Democrat candidates and causes, which is amazing, okay? I don't know what law clerks are making there. Like, that's a lot of money for a law clerk in New York. Now, I don't know if Greenfield's getting her, you know, her purse stuffed by Engoron or someone else. You know, I don't know what's going on there, you know, with those notes. I mean, stuff with notes because they're passing notes around. But I don't know what's happening because that is a lot of money. You know, like most people, I don't think, have budgets for $3,300 for just political causes. And this is not even in an election year. This is like I mean, it's, you know, maybe the midterms, but it's New York. Like, it's all blue. It's all going to always blue for quite a long time. I think it's going to continue to be blue, at least where she resides in Manhattan. So in 2022 alone, that's a lot of money. Now, she's already given more than $1,000 in 2023 to campaigns. That's a lot. You know, it's like, first of all, we have inflation, man. Things are very expensive now. She just got, you know, extra thousands of dollars to just donate away. How much money are they making over there as law clerks? Goodness. Now, when President Trump's attorneys notified Judge Engoron about her donos, Judge Engoron responded by issuing an illegal gag order against President Trump's legal team. It says, don't talk about Greenfield. Don't you talk about her. Yes, she's donated $4,300 to Democrat causes in violation of the Judicial Code, as is Judge Engoron's Judicial Code violations clearly present, and nobody cares in New York because they're all going to Democrats. So, and when Trump speaks out about it, you're gagged. Don't you dare do that or I'm going to sanction you. So Judge Engoron, and again, this is Representative Stefanik, and I think this is outstanding, right? It's amazing so far. And it's very curious as to why, you know, other Republican politicians aren't joining the cause on this, because it's clearly insane what they're doing. But Judge Engoron, she writes, has gone on to gag and to fine President Trump for merely criticizing the law clerk, the same woman who's passing him notes, which is core political speech protected by the First Amendment. Trump is in the hole 15 grand, I think, by the latest count. 15 grand, right? $5,000 for the first offense and another 10 for the second. She says, if anyone in America must have the constitutional right to speak out against the judge, his staff, and the witnesses, it's the defendant going through the process that he believes is politicized and weaponized. That's the point of the First Amendment. When something is unjust, you have an absolute right to speak about it and petition your government. It's why it's the first one. To gag a defendant is un-American. It's an illegal prior restraint on the First Amendment rights, which even the progressive ACLU felt compelled to acknowledge after another Democrat judge called Judge Chutkan in Washington, D.C. also illegally gagged President Trump. That's currently on appeal. Indeed, 3 Democrat-appointed judges on the D.C. Circuit have since stayed Judge Chutkan's illegal gag order. And that's the administrative stay that we covered here. And then we have oral arguments coming out on that, I believe, November 20th, I believe. Now, she continues, says Judge Engoron put his judgment in serious doubt when he issued a summary judgment citing as evidence of fraud that Trump declared that Mar-a-Lago was worth between $426 million and $612 million. The AP reported that the 2 top Palm Beach area real estate agents said the club's sale of, quote, $1 billion or more would be possible. She references us to footnote 16, Spencer Terry, October 9, 2023 article. Is Mar-a-Lago worth $1 billion? So yeah, somebody said, yeah, he probably could sell it for $1 billion. But in fact, Judge Engoron ridiculously found that Mar-a-Lago was only worth somewhere between $18 and $27.6 million, which, you know, at that valuation, we were considering, you know, maybe starting a fund and see if we can like super chat ourselves up to at least, you know, like a closet in there. That's attainable, I think. AnyZillow.com search shows that nearly 20 acres of prime real estate in Palm Beach, touching both the Atlantic Ocean and the Intercoastal Waterway, is worth exponentially more than 18 to 27 million, obviously. It's like insane, right? And Judge Engoron had in his hand the sworn deposition of Palm Beach real estate against Lawrence Mowens, who said the Trump organization's valuation were reasonable and below my estimate for the market value of the property each year. Mowens was also asked in a sworn deposition about what sort of buyers would purchase Mar-a-Lago. He said, I could dream up anyone from Elon Musk to Bill Gates and everyone in between. Kings, emperors, heads of state, people with net worths of billions of dollars. The judge wrote, obviously, this court cannot consider an expert affidavit that is based on unexplained and unsubstantiated dreams, is what the judge wrote. And she says, Judge Engoron apparently doesn't understand that expert opinions aren't dreams. And this is yet another example of why Engoron demonstrated bad judgment by keeping this case instead of sending it to the expert judges in the commercial division where the case belongs, saying that he should have booted this out, says that Trump requested requested to move the fraud suit to the commercial division, and Engoron rejected that attempt. That article from October 2022, saying, Judge Engoron, this is Ms. Stefanik, his bizarre and his biased behavior is making New York's judicial system a laughingstock. Absolutely true. Former SDNY federal prosecutor named Andrew McCarthy, you may have heard of him, who has at times criticized President Trump, recently stated that he views the whole New York justice system as fraudulent. Andy McCarthy, yeah, crazy right-winger. She says, Section 100.2a states the following. It says, a judge shall respect and comply with the law and shall act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. That's the rule. I didn't write it, says Ms. Stefanik. Judge Engoron has grossly failed to do this. The commission's sanctions against Judge Engoron are necessary to bring back credibility to our great state's legal system. All Americans, including political opponents, must receive due process and equal protection under our United States and New York constitutions. But Judge Engoron's disdain for President Trump and his politics are evident, and the commission must take corrective action to restore a just process and protect our constitutional rights. Judge Engoron must recuse from this case. Ms. Stefanik, representative from New York, continues. She says, this case is so much bigger than President Donald John Trump. If Judge Engoron can railroad a billionaire New York businessman, a former president of the United States, and the leading presidential candidate, just imagine what he could do to all New Yorkers or anyone else. Judge Engoron's lawlessness sends an ominous and illegal warning to New York business owners. If your New York judges don't like your politics, they will destroy your business, the livelihood of your employees, and you personally. This commission cannot let this continue. She writes, thank you for your prompt consideration of this judicial complaint against Judge Engoron for his inappropriate bias and judicial intemperance in New York versus Trump, case number cited therein. Sincerely, Elise Stefanik. Now, not Representative Elise Stefanik, not Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, just a New York citizen who is watching what's happening in New York and who is grossly disturbed about it, as she should be, as should all New Yorkers, because what's happening is not justice. I mean, it's actually kind of insane that it's even being allowed to continue, that the judge is just allowing, himself to gag people for commenting on his own misconduct. It's like, what kind of a courtroom is this? So that, my friends, is what's happening in the Trump trial out of New York City. And there will be more from Trump's defense when they are back in session presenting their case in chief. Of course, we will be here continuing to cover it as soon as they start with their first witness and beyond. And so thank you for subscribing. Thank you for joining us on the next one. We'll look forward to seeing you there.